And welcome inside the Roxo Media House studios. Chris Gutierrez alongside Fort Worth Star-Telegram columnist Mac Engel, the longtime sports columnist known for your opinion pieces. And according to your bio, let me read this correctly, you combine dry wit with first-person reporting to complement a head of hair that is almost unfair.
It's true. I don't know who wrote that, but it is true. The question is, like, how much longer will I have it?
Yeah.
I don't know, because I'm getting older now, and I know these things are not going to last forever. So I can probably start seeing the end of this. So I'm going to do everything I can to hold on to it as long as I can.
It looks great.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Thanks for having me.
You got it. Glad you're here. We are here to talk a little bit about the spring game leading up in the next hour or so. Will be kickoff over at Amon Carter Stadium. When you are a sports guy and you go to a spring game, specifically an intra-squad game like this, what is it that you're looking for?
Usually a couple of players. You know, they can only do so much. The primary focus and goal for any of these games is just to get out healthy.
Sure.
As long as nobody tears a knee, sprains an ankle, blows out an Achilles, any of that. You can, sprains okay. Man, they want to duck the ACL. You really want to duck the Achilles. Obviously, any of those big ones. So once you're past that gold standard, then what you're trying to find is some newcomers, and do they show you a little bit of something? Because look, Chris, no one's really going 110%.
Right.
It's not game mode. It's not Saturday mode. This is spring mode. So what you're looking for, circle, 3 to 5 guys, kind of watch, see what they do in limited chances, and see if they show you something. And if they do, then I think, and the execution looks decent on the offensive side for the most part, then I can say you had a successful spring game.
When you talk about the offensive side, you talk about a guy, Chandler Morris, right? Quarterback coming in, won the job last year, lost the job to injury to a guy who eventually became a Heisman candidate, ended up in New York. Improbable, impossible, I mean, you name it, everything that happened last year was amazing for the TCU Horned Frog football program. Is he one of those guys that you're watching?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's the quarterback.
Yeah.
So now, you always looked at the quarterback forever, but now, because of the way the rules are and the way the game's officiated, they're often, I think disproportionately so, the game is more about the quarterback than ever before. And it was already about the quarterback because he touches the ball all the time. But I think when you look at Chandler Morris, it was one of the more amazing details of that entire season. You think about it, he wins the starting job because the incumbent who had been a 3-year starter loses the job. Chandler comes in, a guy that Sonny Dykes knew because Chandler played high school ball around the block from where he coached at SMU. So everybody knew Chandler Morris. He wins the job for a reason. He's doing okay in his regular season debut at Colorado last year. The end of the third quarter, gets hurt. Not season ending. The other guy comes in, and then Disney takes over. And meanwhile, Chandler, who would not have been eligible to come back but for several weeks, so by the time he's ready to come back, he's lost his job. And the thing about it, I had a chance to talk to him at length at the Fiesta Bowl. You could tell this is a coach's kid. I mean, he got it. He understood. And, he didn't transfer. God, guys are transferring. They're dropping out right and left because they can. And this guy told Sonny Dykes and the coaching staff, I won the job once. I'm going to win it again.
That's right.
And so he's going to be your starter. Now, I know they've got other guys. Look, one thing you have to take into consideration, there are going to be a lot of spring transfers, a lot. Like Ole Miss has got basically 4 starting quarterbacks. Some of the transfer portal is going to open huge here in the next little few weeks, month.
Okay.
And however the roster looks today, it's going to be different in about 2 months or a month or so. So take that into consideration. But obviously Chandler Morris, given the fact that he was a highly recruited kid, he was a transfer, I think he's going to be the starter. Can he hold up? And can he execute the offense? Forget at the level of Max Duggan. That was video game stuff.
Right.
But can he execute the offense at a proficient level and score? Because this is a scoring league.
Sure.
Can you score 25, 30, 32 points a game to be competitive?
And this is a guy who Lincoln Riley recruited to Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So the pedigree's there,
Yep,
right? The
for sure.
talent is there. He's got the gifts to lead this team. And I agree with you. The way that he accepted his new role after the injury and the way that he approached that new role says a lot about this young man and what he can do for the offense. So,
but there's one part of it I think it's really worth mentioning. And all the things that you said about him are dead on true. The concern is, can he hold up? Max Duggan was a big kid.
Sure.
I mean, he was a tank, and he could take a hit. He could give a hit, and he could take a hit.
Right.
And there were a lot of times, Max would get hit, and he'd stand up, or you were like, ooh, I don't know about this. And he was all right.
Yeah.
Chandler's not built like Max. He's a college football player. He's a college quarterback, so that's a big young man.
Right.
He ain't as big as Max.
Yeah.
And so the one thing they're going to have to keep an eye on, he is not going to be able to take the kind of hits that Max did.
Got it. Another thing we're going to keep our eye on is the new offense under Kendall Briles.
Yeah,
we are
for
going to hear from Kendall Briles. We're going to hear from defensive coordinator Joe Gillespie and also head coach Sonny Dykes right after this quick break. Stay with us.
Simply the best barbecue in Fort Worth. Dine in, catering, or drive-through. 2900 Montgomery, just off I-30. Remember, the best barbecue in Fort Worth is at Railhead Smokehouse.
And welcome back inside the Roxo Media House studios for this pregame show of the big spring game that's coming up. Purple versus white, I guess we can call it.
Yeah, usually
right?
purple
Sure.
and white game. Sure.
Purple and white game. We'll take that.
Horned versus frogs.
Something
go
like
with
that.
Yeah.
Sure. We want to hear now from head coach Sonny Dykes and his coordinators and what they expect at tonight's big game.
I think it's going to be a good practice for us. I mean, I think, you want to see guys play physical. You want to see them play hard. It's the first time some of these young guys will play against college competition, really, and just interested to see how it all comes together and who performs and who doesn't. And it's always a fascinating thing to see, which guys kind of handle getting under the lights well and which of them aren't quite ready for that yet. And it's a great way to figure that out. I really like what I'm seeing out of those safeties. That's a really good group, a lot of competition, guys that can make plays. I've been pleased with that group overall. It's been fun to see, some of the things we're doing defensively in terms of the personnel and playing Dom Williams some as a defensive end. I think it's been a good move for us. Allows us to get the best players on the field and be big and physical inside. Like our linebackers, like the room a lot. I think that we're starting to develop some really good depth there. And then probably honestly the biggest surprise has just been how well some of those true freshmen that graduated early have come in and assimilated and learned things. And those guys are really confident, have done a great job of adjusting, and I think have an opportunity to help us. Come out and see the guys. I think it's going to be fun to see how it all gets put together. I think that's one of the things that's always good for fans is they have expectations for players, and sometimes guys reach those expectations and surpass them fast. Other guys it takes a little bit longer, and so it's just fun when you kind of see it all come together and guys really step up and exceed maybe where you thought they were going to be. And that's what's fun about spring. Every year it happens. There's always 10 or 12 guys that make a big move and 3 or 4 guys you wish had made a bigger move, and it creates great competition, and competition makes everybody better. It's been positive. I think we got to continue to be a physical football team, have a physical mindset and mentality. That's going to be important for us. We lost a couple of guys inside that really were tough guys and had played a lot of football, and Steve, and those guys were really physical football players, and we got to continue to have that same kind of mentality. And I think once we kind of get all the pieces fit together, it's going to be fun. I think we're going to have a chance to have a dynamic offense with a lot of speed on the field, and it'll look a little different. I think to the casual observer, it's not going to look a whole lot different. I mean, same type of personnel, maybe a little bit more quick passing, but other than that, I think people will see a lot of the same concepts being run. Now, it kind of comes from a different place, but it's kind of ends up looking really the same.
Obviously you want to go out there and we want to look sharp, we want to look good, but this is something right now where you're still building and creating. That chapter that was written last season is something to build off of and things of that nature. But that chapter's been written, and so now we're writing our own. And we got quite a few guys back in some places. We're going to be fairly new in some other places. We're further along right now from a mental standpoint in understanding the defense than certainly where we were this time last year. So that part is very good. Now, you don't have to be a championship caliber team right now, and shouldn't be a championship caliber team right now. But we want to progressively move forward every day that we step out on the field. This was an opportunity this spring for us, to go through as many games as what we did this past season, and what we got to go up against and what we got to see, and the things that hurt you, the things that you were good at. It gave us an opportunity this spring to start tinkering with some adjustments and doing some things a little bit differently for us to help us get back to that same path, that same road, and come out on top of it this time. When you start talking about our safety group and stuff like that, between a Nook Bradford and a Mark Perry and a Bud Clark and a Nabe Kamara and all of those guys, well, shucks, I mean, they got a lot of reps under their belt from this past season. So they've got a really good feel of what the concept is of what we're trying to do and what this defense is about. And so that's a very strong group. From the linebacker room, it's been a good spring for us. Obviously, without Jamoy Hodge right now, still waiting on a Marcel Brooks and a Thomas Armstrong, having the D Winters move on and for the draft and stuff. And so Namdi Obiezer moves down, and so we're excited about that. I think the ones that kind of stand out to me are sometimes your younger guys, and some of the younger ones right now for me are guys like Big Paul Uwali and those guys that are at the defensive end, Big Mike and those guys. We have the foundation, and we have a great grasp of what this defense is and what it can be and what it can do. And so them having that year of experience under their belt should certainly help catapult us on forward. And so, there's some things that we're always driving where it's never good enough. And that's kind of our MO. It's never good enough, so don't ever get satisfied or get complacent, and stay hungry. And it's fun to coach these guys because they live and breathe that way.
The spring game will be one of the easier practices that we've done. We've had hard physical practices and got to see most of the things that we needed to see and needed to work on. And so, going out there and, you don't want to call it putting on a show, but going out there and letting those guys have fun in the stadium in front of people. And they'll amp up a little bit, but Coach Gillespie is going to minimize his call sheet. We're going to do the same on offense, and go out there and let the guys just run around, have fun, and play ball. So, really the crescendo of the spring and to finish it out right and stay healthy is the main thing. We're going to try to be as productive as we can be with the personnel that we have, and I think within any offensive system, that's what you want to be. Coach Dykes, he wants to go with tempo. He wants to be aggressive, and he was, aggressive last year going for it on fourth downs. And I think we'll be a lot more up-tempo than what they were. And, we're going to start with foundationally running the football. That's what we do, and then we'll throw the ball down the field. So, hopefully just, a productive offense. That'd be the main thing. There's a host of challenges that come with that. First off is, coaching the coaches. These guys, Malcolm Kelly's been in the system in 2018 in Houston. A.J. Ricker visited us when we were at Baylor, so he's heard it and been around it. But that's about it. I got to bring two guys from Arkansas, Mike Anthony and Mark Kalla. So those guys have been extremely instrumental in helping us install the offense with the coaches. And then really once that happens, then the coaches can start to coach the players because they got to own the information that they're teaching the players. And we've had it set up within our rules to be able to have meetings and to be able to have walkthroughs and do those things before spring ball to try to get ourselves ready, and then just hit the ground running. We've installed a lot of information and put a lot on the players, and we've done that by design, so we have things that they can recall to over the summer and once we get in fall camp. Chandler and Hoover are going to get most of the reps. Those are the two guys that are going to see the field the most, and we got a couple other guys that are worthy to go out there and go play, Party and Porter. So both those guys will be able to go out and get reps. But, really we've done a nice job of getting everybody reps all spring. And you have that privilege in the spring because you can kind of stay on the field as long as you want, and you can get all those guys reps so everybody can go out there and play and have fun. They work their butt off with winter conditioning, and they want to go out there and play football.
All right, so you just heard from the coordinators there and head coach Sonny Dykes, and they took your playbook, I think. Stay healthy.
Yeah.
Stay healthy,
Yep.
and let's just put on a show for the fans.
Okay.
Friday Night Lights.
Yep.
Right, Friday Night Lights. Let's kind of dig deeper on the coaches. Sonny Dykes comes in, and as a first-year head coach, takes a team to the national championship.
Yeah.
Improbable, like you can't dream it up. You called it Disney earlier before. It's the perfect Hollywood script. What are the expectations now for Horned Frog fans coming into the following season?
I think it depends how old you are. I think it depends if you've been around the university and the team, the program enough, your expectations are one thing. Because you know where they've been. And you know how, quite frankly, Chris, how bad it was.
Sure.
So you can appreciate this on a different level. If you're 21 and you're an undergrad, or you're 25 and you're just out, then you're like, well, okay, we're going to do this every year.
Big 12 championship or
Here we
bust.
go.
Right.
Yeah. Well,
Right.
no, you're not. I
Yeah.
mean, you're not. That's not to say that anything is bad. It's just you have good teams and bad seasons, and you have injuries, and you have luck, you have lightning in a bottle. You can win a bunch of close games, and that was the one thing about TCU last year. They won all of their close games, and that was all they played. You would think, okay, if you can win more of those than you lose, those close games, you're in good shape. They won them all.
Yeah.
The only one they didn't win was the Kansas State game in the Big 12, championship game. And it went to overtime, and they probably should have won had they not messed up the third and goal and fourth and goal call.
Right.
But they won them all. That's not going to happen again. I mean, that happened for a reason. That was a special group who believed they could do it. Well, law of averages, Chris, you're just not going to win them all. So I think when you talk about expectations is, are you competitive? Are you consistently around it? You know, are you in the conversation year in and year out? And if you are most years, then as a head coach, you can feel good about what you've done. But, you know, the other thing, too, when you look at it the way college football is, especially now with the fact that guys can transfer every 5 minutes, these teams aren't going to stay together. And that's good and bad. So sometimes you can cash in on those transfers.
Right.
But, you know, the longevity that we were used to, especially at TCU. Gary Patterson was here forever.
Right.
Nick Saban's been at Alabama forever. I don't think we're going to see that as much. I think we're going to see 8, 10, 12-year windows of head coaches because they will have made enough money. And then there's going to be a staleness. College football programs get stale fast. There's no patience on the part of the fans. So I think there's just not.
Yeah.
And so I think if you are older, I'm older, and I've seen TCU when it was 1-11 or 1-10.
I was here during that time.
Yeah. So you and I were both there.
Sure,
So
yeah.
if they go 8-4 next year, like, oh, that's a great year.
Yeah.
There we go.
Right.
We're 8-4. This is amazing. Let's go.
Right.
Let's go to the bar. Whereas there's going to be a younger person like, oh, this is awful.
Yeah.
I'm quitting. This is horrible. Why am I
Yeah.
here?
Right.
So I think it's going to be someplace in the middle. I fully expect the players they have coming back, the coaches they have, they're going to be competitive next year.
I think so.
But to sit here like, don't worry about it. They're going to the national championship game. No,
Right.
come on.
And plus, the Big 12 is going to look different
Oh, my
next
God.
year, the year after, when,
Yep.
when OU and Texas leave for the SEC. Does that help TCU in this league? I mean, does TCU have a leg up?
Well, in a way, yeah. I think in a way, because if you look at who TCU is playing in the new Big 12 teams that are coming in, there's 4 new teams coming in, and TCU will play BYU and Houston.
Right.
Yeah, you could have played Cincinnati. Cincinnati lost Luke Fickell. He left. Could have played Central Florida. So that's not bad. I would say Houston took a step back last year under Dana Holgorsen. I'm not sure where they are. BYU is BYU. Sometimes they're really, really good, and sometimes they take a big step back. But, in terms of the expectations of what that conference is going to look like, you have a ton of teams. You have 2 teams on their way out. You have 4 new teams on their way in.
For now.
For now.
For now,
Yeah,
right? It could
for
grow.
now, to be changed next
Yeah,
week.
exactly.
But I think the one thing we have seen for the observers who've been around TCU, as we have seen this university conference jump, there's usually a little bit of lag time. Maybe a year, when TCU went from the Southwest Conference to the WAC.
WAC.
Right? Well, they were bad in the WAC, and then they got better. Then they went from the Mountain West to Conference USA, and it took a minute or two. And now look at them. So I think if you look at that timeline, if you look at the new schools that are coming in, it's going to take a little bit of time, and TCU should be able to capitalize on those matchups.
Love it. Great insight, as always, from Mac here. When we come back, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll go out to Amon Carter Stadium and check in with our Olivia Lee right after this.
Simply the best barbecue in Fort Worth. Dine in, catering, or drive through. 2900 Montgomery, just off I-30. Remember, the best barbecue in Fort Worth is at Railhead Smokehouse.
Welcome back inside the Roxo Media House studios. Chris Gutierrez alongside Mac Engel again, longtime sports columnist and opinion writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. We love the Star-T around here.
Thank you very much.
And you do a great job of telling their stories.
Thank you.
Let's check in now with Olivia Lee. She is inside Amon Carter Stadium ahead of kickoff. Hey, Olivia.
Thank you so much, Chris. And we are down here in Amon G. Carter Stadium. I'm alongside a TCU student, Micah Pierce, who's also involved in TCU student media here. Thanks for taking the time to speak with Frogs today. Now, as we approach many athletic events coming up, specifically the Friday game for TCU football, what has it been like on campus with TCU athletics being so successful this year?
I think there was just a buzz kind of around campus and throughout all the athletics. The football coaches talked about it. I mean, it carried over into basketball season, even into baseball season as well. We were kind of picked to finish atop the Big 12. It's been kind of a rough go for them so far, but the season ended too soon for our basketball players as well. But overall, the momentum is kind of picking back up again now that we're getting back into football season.
For sure. And speaking of football, they had such an exceptional year last year. How do you think the pressure from that season is carrying over to this year as they approach the spring game?
I think a lot of the younger players are going to feel that pressure for sure, and then a lot of the veterans as well, because they're going to have to be captains. They're going to have to take the spots of those the veterans and the seniors that left for the draft, or even just a few of the players that transferred. But I think Dykes kind of all last season, it was important to him that all the younger players and even the veterans kind of stayed level-headed, even when they were they didn't have any losses through the first 7, 8, 9 games. And he just made sure that they were level-headed and ready for the playoffs when they got in. So I think he's going to carry that over this season, and it's a high standard that he set, but I don't think he'll have any sort of problem kind of comparing them through the spring and in the season.
For sure, Dykes is such an integral part of this program. And a final question I have for you, what expectations do you have for this football program heading into Friday's spring game?
I mean, last year they made it to the Fiesta Bowl, they made it to the national championship. First Texas team to get there to the CFP National Championship, first team from the Big 12. So there's a lot of expectations, and like I was saying, I think Dykes is just going to keep all the players calm. So hopefully they'll bring it back, and I mean, it's just exciting to see, especially with some of the new teams getting in the Big 12. So there's going to be more competition, but I think it'll be exciting as well.
For sure. Well, we're looking forward to Friday Night Lights. Thank you for speaking with Frogs today. Chris, let's take it back to you.
Thank you, Olivia, for that report. And it is a great time to be a student at TCU if you love the athletic programs, right? I mean, there are, I think, 2 this year that weren't ranked in the top 25 in their sport. It's an incredible time.
It is. And, you know, I hope the people who are there now as undergrads or graduate students or whomever can appreciate it and really enjoy it, because these times don't happen all the time.
You're right.
And I know there are certain universities like Alabama football who think it's just a birthright because it's been there forever. Not everybody gets to enjoy what TCU is doing right now and going to the Fiesta Bowl and a Big 12 championship game and an NCAA men's basketball tournament games and all that kind of
baseball. We assume is going to do well.
Baseball's been competitive.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's really for TCU to do what it did in this era. I think is one of the most underappreciated success stories in college athletics nationally.
Wow.
Because, well, it didn't have the start. It's basically a Notre Dame-ish type university in terms of small, it's private. Now, granted, Notre Dame's in South Bend, Indiana, but Notre Dame had an 80-year head start.
And a legacy.
And a legacy. So while all this stuff was getting bigger and there was momentum in college sports and television and all this other stuff, TCU didn't have that momentum. They were at the bottom. Yeah. So for them,
how did it happen then? How did it?
They won. I mean, I think there's a couple different things, and I say this because I've covered college sports to see how it's changed in other places. I think one of the biggest benefits that they've had is the fact that they have had consistent leadership and a consistent vision amongst its chancellor and its board. As when you're around academia, you'll see you might have one president or chancellor who says, you know what, I want to put less emphasis on this. We're going to put our resources towards this, right? Our business school or a medical school or a law school. I want to take a step back from sports and athletics or whatever the priority is. Well, at TCU, starting at about 1998, it was Dr. Tucker, who's no longer with us.
Right.
He made the decision along with a lot of other people. Names I'm going to forget. Dr. Bill Kaler is a very smart man who had a big part of it. Members of the board, they all said, we're going to lean into this and we're going to make this work. Then they hired Gary, and that was ingenious. Then they hired Jim Schlossnagle, and they hired a lot of other really bright, good people who were invested in, and they really believed in the mission. And they hired Chancellor Bashini, and he's been here for a long time.
Yep.
And you can't really adequately describe the value in one consistent mission, which is this is what we're doing, and this is what we're doing. And Chris, there wasn't any deviation from it. There might have been some slight disagreements about how to do it, but where they were going was completely unified. They did it, they've grown. The university brand is national now, and the athletic department, even though it's at a small university, is nationally prominent. And so I hope everybody associated with it can look at it and say, man, this is awesome. I can't believe we did it.
It is awesome.
It
because
is.
If,
It really
if
is.
you look back at the time that we were in school, it was a much different place.
No, it's a
Right?
different university.
It's totally different.
It is.
But I find I have so much pride when I come back and when I'm on campus and I see the changes. Like I'm grateful for those. Some people are, oh, this wasn't around when I was here. It wasn't around, but I'm really thankful that it is now.
Well, and one thing I noticed, like when I worked in the athletic department and I was in graduate school from '96 to '98, Chris, how many people I talked to, and I'm not trying to disparage anything or anyone, who said, yeah, I don't know if I really like it here. I always felt sad for those people.
Yeah.
College should be one of the great 4-year periods of your life.
For sure.
Right? And I found too many of them were just like, yeah, I don't know. Well, now, I don't know anybody
That's
who
good.
doesn't just love the heck out of it. And for the people who did have that 4-year period, like, yeah, it was okay, they love coming back and being a part of that community. And you don't take something like that for granted, because it is a special time, and to be associated with that's nationally recognized now, it should be celebrated and you should enjoy it. And when I go around that campus, and it's a different place,
Yeah.
and everybody seems to really be unified and they've bought in on it.
So call me crazy, but it sounds like an article. It sounds like a
I
potential.
may have written it.
Yeah,
I think
you
I
just-
have written
You want to just
everything
read you
at
the
some
tape?
point. Yeah, you want to just send this back to me? That'd be
Good
good. That
stuff.
would just save me a couple of hours. That'd be good. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chris,
for
very
being
much.
here.
Thank you.
For Mac Engel, I'm Chris Gutierrez, along with Olivia Lee and everyone behind the scenes for this broadcast, this Roxo Media House production. We are grateful that you spent the pregame with us. Enjoy the game and look for a recap on our website at frogstoday.com. We'll see you next time.